Update. On having a baby with my married boyfriend and amp. Not knowing he was married. Edit. Image removed because you, Eganist, said it wasik to Red Heart also. I'm all set with everything baby needs. With things being as they are, consider donating to a local diaper formula bank. Red Heart, save your money for awards on this post too and put it toward that. Help babies and mamas who don't have the resources I do. JZ, I_23F_M_days_away_from_giving_birth_and_my_37 meters. First things first. I had my healthy baby girl on Monday evening. We were discharged shortly after birth due to COVID, so I have been just trying to adjust to everything. Her birth was a dream and I never want to do it again. Lol. Second, I talked to his wife for over an hour yesterday. I guess he decided to tell her. She wasn't mad at me, thank God. She'd had her suspicions but was trying to trust her husband, which I understand. She was so nice, honestly, and even though she isn't angry at me, I still feel bad because she's such a nice lady. She wanted to make sure I was doing okay and that I didn't need anything, which made me cry because postpartum hormones are whack. She's getting a divorce from him. Good for her, TBH. We are planning to meet you and talk shit about him once the virus is over. I have a lawyer and will establish custody and child support legally ASAP. He hasn't bothered to contact me at all, but I don't particularly care. I didn't want to leave anyone hanging, even though it's not a huge update. Thank you to everyone who checked in. It means a lot. My 22M gay best friend, 22M, touched me while I slept. If you are triggered by sexual assault stories, I advise you do not read this. Thank you. So the title is fairly self-explanatory as to what happened. He doesn't know I know, because obviously I woke up. Anyway, to set the scene a little. Or a low treading this back. Let's call him Jay. Jay and I have been friends for around 9 years now. We always got on really well at school and had the same sense of humor and life views. When we were 16 to 17, I finally got round to asking him if he was gay. He hadn't come out yet, but it was painfully obvious. He never came out to me because he was afraid of the way I would react if I would distance myself, which I tried my best not to. The catch was, admitted he was in love with me. We stayed much the same for the rest of school. I'd be lying if I said I didn't occasionally have the lingering thought that he loved me. However, as we became older and could drink legally, 18 in the UK, we would go out on the piss and end up blind drunk. So I'm unaware of a lot. However, I was told by a few other close and oldest friends that he was in love with me. Which of course I told them I already knew that. The thing I was unaware of was that he was quite handsy with me. Nothing too major, but Jay would place his hand on my thigh or slap my ass. I always pointed out when he slapped my ass and told him to stop that. He still occasionally does. As a result of being told that, I began to drink less with him. He didn't slow down, and I could see for myself that Jay was far too comfortable. I'm really not the kind of guy that likes contact at the best of times, so for me it would make me flinch. I also noticed how whenever we would talk about relationships, Jay would floor me with compliments and how fit I am or how nice my legs are, etc. I work a manual job and exercise, but I'm nothing special. Or how he would comment on the other guys in the bar, kind of like how guys do to girls. Okay, now skip forwards a fair amount. I'd say 2 years to current date. A fairly consistent pattern has arisen. Whenever we go out and he drinks too much, we finish up sat on a bench somewhere with me trying to console him and him telling me he has nothing except me and another very close friend of his, and how he doesn't know how he would go on without me. The last time this happened was because we were with a few friends and the topic of relationships came up. I specifically avoid my own around him, but this time I slipped and said about my intimacy with my last train wreck relationship. He basically just up and left, so it all came to a stop and we went out to find him. We did, and he was fine, but yet again he was telling me how much he loved me and that I hurt him by saying what I did. Skip about 2 hours on. I slept in his room with his other closest friend. Set up a kinda mattress thing. We weren't in the same bed. He always says to sleep in the same bed, but I categorically refuse. Damn good thing too. During the night, I've no idea what time, I wake up and my legs feel pretty cold, so I roll the blanket back over them. Didn't get up or anything. Then I swear I felt the blanket moving. I looked but was still asleep and still really pissed. But I'm sorry, saw Jay laying on the floor at the bottom of the set up. As I was drunk and asleep, I was weirded out but wasn't 100% sure, so decided to ignore it. Nothing more happened except the noise of him masturbating. Now that's a noise you can't sleep to. Time skip yet again to recently. Jay and I went out to the pub for a meal and a couple of drinks. It was a pleasant evening. We went back to his and watched a movie. Time for bed. This is where shit gets fucked up for me. And this is the hardest bit to write, because of all the things I never thought to happen to me, especially from him. I go to sleep like normal. I wake up, the cover is moving again. This time I remember last time and don't ignore it. I lay there, face down is how I sleep. The covers lift from my legs. Then they move a bit further up and come off at my thighs. At this point I know exactly what's happening. He's leaning over the front of the bed looking. It gets worse as he decided I was in fact asleep, and he reached for my underwear. When his hand got hold of the elastic, I rolled myself over as hard as he possibly could and made a bunch of noise. But I didn't wake up. After pulling the covers back onto myself, I waited half an hour, and was starting to pass back out. I fell asleep. Then I woke up. I was on my back. His hand was exactly where you're thinking it was. It was in my underwear. It was pulling on my penis. I froze up. I shut my eyes tight for probably 10 seconds and then came to my senses. I turned to the side. I tried not to make it look like I'd woken up. I lay there, until he finally relented and rolled back up the bed. From 5 a.m. I didn't sleep a wink and had to listen to him furiously masturbating over and over. I couldn't get up and go because he would know. Andy was still under some influence of alcohol, so couldn't drive. I waited until 9:30 and got up. He was awake and we said good morning. I said I was off and had to go to work. It was true, I work 7 days a week. I left. Got home, puked a few times and had a bath. Usually I would be the guy who turns his face in top up. And I would if I wasn't careful. But more my question is, what exactly am I supposed to do? I know I should report it, but I can't do that to him. And he just might do something stupid to himself. IFHE knew. P.S. I have always been a Reddit stalker, looking at all these posts thinking, wow, that's fucked up, imagine that, while eating popcorn. Well, look at me now. I made it. TLDR. Skip the first 3 paragraphs. I can't shortword it, sorry. It's the title. Thanks in advance if you take the time to read this and it gets noticed. I just needed somewhere to say it. My husband, 38, won't accept our gay son. Last month my son, 16 came out to us as gay. I, 36, already kind of had a feeling, call it mother's intuition if you will, and was not at all surprised when my son came out. My husband and I both grew up in religious households, but when we had children, we never wanted to force anything onto them. We both agreed that we would raise them as best as we could, and if they chose not to believe in God, we would love them just as much as if they did. We married young and our eldest was born when I was 20. We had always wanted a decently big family on Dare, so grateful for our 3 beautiful boys and baby girl. However, last month, the dynamics of our perfect family broke apart. My son had been so nervous for a while before he told us, and then when restaurants reopened, he begged us to take him out alone, without his siblings. He looked desperate, so we both agreed and my mother babysat for us. We arrived and I just had a feeling I knew what he was going to say. And when the food arrived, he finally said it. Mom, Dad, I'm gay. I held his hand and told him that I loved him. We both did, and he will always be our son. From hindsight, I now realize my husband was being unusually quiet, but at the time I was so elated and my son looked so relieved. When we got back home that evening, my husband went straight upstairs. I assumed he went to the bathroom, but when he came down, he had a suitcase. He grabbed my son and dragged him along with suitcase out of the house. I ran after them, of course. My husband called him names and pushed him onto his drive. He basically threw my son out. I was pissed. I had no reason to believe my husband would react this way. We have friends who are openly gay and talk to many people at our church who are too. I don't understand how his son being openly gay is a problem for him. I was so pissed, I stood between them and told my husband to respect his son for who he is. Now, he's never been a violent man, but for the first time in the 17 years we've been married, I saw him as violent. He hit my son. I was so angry, I threatened to call the police if he didn't leave right now. He left the house angrily, drove away. He has been staying with his brother since. I love my husband and my son. I want them both to be happy, but my son is 16. He can't live without his parents' help. My husband can. I chose my son over my husband. Does that make me a bad person? Probably, but the moment he hit my son, he lost all my respect. I don't think I could ever look at him the same way. He hit our son, that's not okay. I'll always love my son, no matter what he chooses to do with his life. Why can't my husband just accept him for who he is? If he's okay with these strangers being openly gay, why can't the son? Now my son blames himself for me being upset with his father. I keep telling him it's not his fault, but it doesn't help that whenever their father does come home, he poisons our other children's minds to think it is their older brother's fault. I just want my family to be peaceful again, but my husband is refusing to talk to me for as long as I defend my son. Last week, he suggested a divorce. I love my husband so much, but if he doesn't accept my son and apologize for hurting him, I don't think I could stay married to him. Every time I see him, I'm just reminded of that moment when his fist hit my son's face, and it makes me so angry and upset. My mother has suggested we go to couples therapy, but I see no point if his father is too stubborn to accept his son for who he is. Is it even worth it to stay married if all I remember is him harming my son? clarifications and, kind of, an update. I didn't want to express the language my husband used against my son as it was very insensitive and offensive. I didn't think it would be appropriate to write them out. Me and my children are staying with my parents at the moment. Husband keeps showing up at the house and son experiences major panic attacks when he does. When I commented I would suggest therapy, I meant for him to go alone so he could work out his issues. I'm looking into some family therapists, LGBT-friendly therapists, etc. It is quite difficult to find some in these trying times, but I have found a couple who seem good. Also, I think the one thing most people were concerned about was to charge my husband for assault. I did take pictures of the injuries and was ready to go to the police, but my son begged me not to. This whole thing has clearly shaken him and he's scared his dad will hate him even more. Even my parents have been trying to stop me from making such a spectacle of it, but I do agree some action should be taken. I'm just trying to remind my son that his father should be penalized for hitting him, and that it's not okay, ever, for someone to hit their children. It's currently 9:30 a.m. where I live and my husband has responded by telling me that he refuses to meet with me and that I should contact him via a lawyer now. Yes, I am heartbroken that my husband wants to divorce me because those feelings have been there for 17 plus years. It's hard for them to just go overnight. But I do think divorce is the best option for us. He put up a facade our whole marriage, heck kind of broke my trust. I don't know if I could ever allow him back in the home. It would be at the risk of harming me and my children, and he could be lying to me again. I would hate it if one day I woke up to my son not speaking to me because I chose his abusive father over him. I don't think it's worth it. He doesn't want to be mature and at least have a conversation with me about it. He's really changed from the man I knew him to be, and I honestly don't know how to deal with that. It is very difficult to know the man you've devoted so much of your life to has been pretending to be someone he's not. I have been in contact with a couple of divorce lawyers from my area. My cousin is a solicitor and even thought divorce isn't her specialty. She was able to find me some of the best from my area. Also, my plan for today is to sit all my children down and have a long talk about why mom and dad are divorcing, and that none of them are to blame, especially my eldest. I'll tell them that their father did something intolerable by hitting their older brother and expressing such aggressive behavior in front of them. I'm also going to ask them what their father has been saying to them, and recording it. I'm just really lucky I have a decent job and Makia's stable income during this pandemic, otherwise I would be screwed right now. Even though husband was the breadwinner, I don't make too far off from what they does. Full update. Me and my children have been doing online therapy sessions according to COVID guidelines and it has been going great so far. My son has come around to getting his father charged for battery, maybe a venom is possible according to my lawyer. He's also realizing that nothing was his fault, the blame lies entirely on his father. We're also in the middle of a divorce. He's trying to get custody of my daughter but my lawyer told me it's very unlikely he'll be given custody for any of my children. I've cut all contact with him. We only speak about the divorce through lawyers, etc. I'm also looking for houses in the area. We collectively agreed as a family it was better to move on from that house that's been tainted with bad memories. I've made their schools aware of what is happening and told them that if their father tries to pick them up from school, college, to call me instantly. Thank you everyone for being so kind and supportive. I really have appreciated all the advice and stories that have been shared with me. My 43F husband, 47 meters, wants to be in the family, but not with me. How do we move forward? My F43 have been married to my husband, M47, for 19 years and have a kid, 9, together. Over the last 7 years, we had grown apart emotionally without been realizing it. Life just happened, kid, work, home, aging parents. It ended up with him having an affair for over 2 years since discovering about the affair, about a year ago, and after many discussions we both decided we wanted to reconcile and rebuild our marriage. We have been seeing a therapist for the past 4 months to help with affair recovery, build our relationship, regain trust and emotional closeness. Through this process, we have uncovered the following. I want to reconcile and build our relationship with my husband. But my husband has realized that what he wants and enjoys is really the family, me and kids, and not a relationship with me. As family, we do a lot of fun things together, for example biking, hiking, traveling, camping, or just spending day-to-day family time together, school activities, kids' sports, watching movies, cooking and eating dinner together, etc. He doesn't enjoy doing any of these with just the kids alone. He contributes equally to all the child-rearing activities, so it's not like a "I'm just the nanny" kind of situation. But he also doesn't enjoy just spending time with me alone. Like when we go out on date nights, etc. Whatever the reasons for him feeling that way, maybe he has resumed his affair, etc. It is what it is. He doesn't want to be with me, but only wants family plus me. If we stay together, just for these family moments, I know am I going to be miserable and it is not what I want in a marriage. And of course the kids are all going to be grown and moved out at some point anyways. If we divorce, we have broken up this family and all the family things the kids, and him, whether I care or not, enjoyed doing are not going to happen. So, how do we move on and compromise here?